if there was a treasure recovered by Samuel Ball, maybe it still survives him and it's somewhere around that foundation.
Imagine spending more than 230 years searching for a treasure that may not even exist. More than 1,000 boreholes have been drilled, dozens of massive excavations have been carried out, and millions of dollars have been spent on Oak Island's legendary money pit. Yet the greatest mystery has remained unsolved. But now, everything may have changed. After analyzing advanced underground scans, more than 35 core samples, and thousands of geological data points, Rick Lagina and his team have identified what appears to be a massive underground structure nearly 180 feet below the money pit. Experts say its shape, depth, and metallic signatures are unlike anything found during previous investigations. If scientific testing confirms that this is a man-made treasure vault, its contents could be worth as much as $150 million. Instead of rushing into another excavation, the team has chosen a different approach: high-precision drilling, remote borehole cameras, 3D ground mapping, and independent laboratory analysis to find out whether this could finally be the breakthrough that treasure hunters have been waiting for. So, has Rick Lagina's team finally reached the entrance to Oak Island's legendary treasure vault? Or is this just another clue leading to an even greater mystery? Stay with us until the very end, because we're going to examine every piece of evidence, every scan, and every discovery to find out what was really uncovered beneath Oak Island. Before we begin, if you enjoy treasure mysteries, hidden history, archaeological discoveries, and documentary-style investigations, make sure to subscribe to Beyond Files, turn on the bell icon, and join us as we uncover the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Now, let's begin. Before we continue, we have one small request. If you're fascinated by Oak Island, hidden treasure, archaeological discoveries, and mystery documentaries, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. The evidence, underground scans, and scientific analysis you're about to see could represent one of the most important moments in Oak Island's long history. It all began during what was expected to be another routine survey. Rick Lagina and his team were once again examining the area surrounding the legendary money pit with advanced underground scanning equipment. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then, within minutes, a single signal appeared on the display that had the potential to change the course of the entire investigation. As the scan continued, an unusual feature became visible nearly 180 feet beneath the surface. Its outline looked noticeably different from the surrounding natural rock formations. No one rushed to celebrate. Oak Island had produced promising signals before, only for later investigations to reveal ordinary geological formations. This time, however, something didn't feel the same. The team immediately began comparing the new results with years of previous surveys, borehole records, geological maps, and historical drilling data. During that review, they realized that this exact location had shown faint indications in earlier investigations. At the time, the available technology simply wasn't capable of producing a clear image. With today's more advanced imaging systems, that once vague signal had finally come into focus. The preliminary analysis suggested the possibility of a large underground void, or man-made structure, approximately 180 feet below the money pit. If future testing confirms those findings, it could mark the very location treasure hunters have been searching for more than 2 centuries. Not long afterward, Rick Lagina gathered the entire team in the war room. Geologists, engineers, archaeologists, and other specialists carefully examined every scan, measurement, and data point displayed on the screens. Everyone understood that excitement alone wasn't enough. Only scientific evidence could determine whether this discovery was genuine. Even so, the unusually clear signal made it difficult for anyone to ignore the possibility that they were looking at something extraordinary. Rick then made an important decision. Every historical borehole log, core sample, geological survey, and ground mapping record would be reviewed from the beginning. He believed that the key to solving Oak Island's greatest mystery might not lie in a brand new discovery, but in old evidence that modern technology could finally interpret correctly. That decision marked the beginning of what would become the most significant phase of the investigation, the strongest evidence in more than 230 years of searching. Since the mystery of Oak Island first captured public attention in 1795, countless expeditions have attempted to uncover whatever lies beneath the island. More than 1,000 boreholes have been drilled, numerous large-scale excavations have taken place, and millions of dollars have been invested in the search for the legendary treasure. Over the years, investigators uncovered wooden structures buried deep underground, detected metallic traces in several locations, and discovered underground voids that repeatedly raised hopes of a breakthrough. Yet every promising lead ultimately failed to produce conclusive proof of the legendary treasure vault. Because of that long history of disappointment, many researchers eventually concluded that Oak Island's secret might never be solved. The latest discovery, however, challenged many of those long-held beliefs. Unlike previous anomalies, which often appeared inconsistent or scattered, this signal remained stable across multiple scans. Every new survey pointed to the same location at roughly 180 feet below the surface, producing a remarkably consistent pattern. That level of agreement between independent scans immediately caught the attention of the investigation team and suggested that this anomaly deserved closer scientific examination than any before it. When the latest scan results were placed alongside decades of borehole records and geological surveys, something unexpected happened. For the first time, the different sets of information appeared to support one another. That discovery immediately drew the attention of the specialists. The geologist gathered in the war room explained that when data collected years apart continues to identify the same location, it deserves serious scientific attention rather than being dismissed as chance. The archaeologists shared a similar opinion. They pointed out that the investigation was no longer based on a single promising scan. Instead, it was built on years of evidence that modern technology was finally able to analyze in far greater detail. Although everyone agreed that no conclusions could be reached without proper scientific verification, one thing had clearly changed. The Oak Island investigation had entered a completely new phase. For the first time, the team genuinely believed they might be closer to solving the mystery than ever before. Core samples rewrote the investigation. After the underground scans revealed the unusual anomaly, Rick Lagina approved the next critical step. Rather than rushing into another excavation, the team drilled more than 35 new core samples across the target area. Their objective was to study every underground layer while disturbing the site as little as possible. Each sample was collected from a carefully selected location, with its exact depth, position, and drilling angle digitally recorded for later analysis. At first, everything seemed routine, but as additional samples were brought to the surface, the scientists realized they were seeing something different. Several cores contained unusual stone layers positioned between the surrounding soil and natural bedrock. In other samples, researchers recovered fragments of aged wood that didn't appear to match normal geological formations. The most debated discovery, however, involved faint metallic traces detected in several samples. These traces did not prove that treasure had been found. What they did provide was something equally important: physical evidence that could be compared directly with the underground scan results. Because of their potential significance, every sample was immediately forwarded to independent laboratories for detailed examination. Several days later, the first laboratory reports arrived. According to the analysis, multiple samples contained material whose composition differed from the surrounding natural soil. Geologists also reported that certain underground layers appeared inconsistent with what would normally be expected through natural geological processes. Even so, the laboratories emphasized an important point. The results did not confirm the existence of a hidden chamber or treasure vault. Additional investigation would still be required before any such conclusion could be made. Nevertheless, discovering multiple unusual indicators within the same location provided strong justification for continuing the investigation. Those laboratory findings became one of the biggest reasons for the team's growing confidence. Rick Lagina then announced that every future step would be guided by scientific verification rather than speculation. The next phase would include precision drilling, laboratory metal analysis, carbon dating, geological modeling, and reviews by independent experts. If both the underground scans and the core samples were pointing toward the same location, the obvious question remained: could a hidden treasure vault actually lie beneath Oak Island? A digital map revealed an unexpected shape. Once the core sample analysis was underway, the team shifted its attention to creating a detailed three-dimensional map beneath the money pit. Using advanced imaging software, specialists reconstructed a digital model of the underground landscape. As the image gradually became clearer, Everyone in the war room focused on one particular feature that immediately stood out. The anomaly, located nearly 180 feet below the surface, didn't resemble an ordinary underground cavity. Instead, portions of the structure appeared to contain straight edges and chamber-like outlines. The mapping also revealed several narrow linear features extending away from the anomaly. Some geologists suggested these could represent the remains of an underground tunnel system. Early interpretations indicated that one possible pathway extended toward the historic Money Pit, while another seemed to head in the direction of Smith's Cove. At this stage, however, these remained preliminary interpretations rather than confirmed discoveries. If future investigations supported those findings, they could provide an entirely new perspective on some of Oak Island's oldest theories. For that reason, every scan was reviewed repeatedly before any conclusions were considered. Not everyone agreed with the initial interpretation. Some archaeologists believed the geometric patterns suggested human construction. Others argued that natural geological formations can occasionally produce similar shapes. Because of those differing opinions, independent verification became the team's highest priority. Rick Lagina made his position absolutely clear. No announcement would be made unless it was supported by solid scientific evidence. At the same time, mining economists and historical researchers began preparing a preliminary assessment by combining historical accounts, long-standing treasure theories, and estimates of potential precious metal values. Some analysts suggested that if a protected treasure vault truly existed beneath the island, its possible contents could be worth approximately $150 million. Even they emphasized that this figure was only a preliminary estimate based on hypothetical assumptions, not proof that such a vault actually exists. Why did Rick Lagina suddenly stop the excavation? After reviewing the 3D mapping results, laboratory reports, and core sample analysis, the team faced its most important decision. Many expected heavy excavation equipment to arrive immediately. From the outside, it seemed like the obvious next step. Instead, Rick Lagina made a decision that surprised nearly everyone. He ordered that no heavy machinery would operate above the target area until every piece of evidence had been thoroughly tested and scientifically verified. His reasoning was simple. If an ancient chamber, tunnel, or treasure vault truly existed beneath the surface, a single mistake made by an excavator could permanently destroy the very evidence they had spent years trying to uncover. That decision completely changed the direction of the investigation. From that point forward, the priority was no longer digging as quickly as possible. The new mission was to investigate carefully, protect every clue, and allow science, not speculation, to determine what was really hidden beneath Oak Island. The team's next move focused on precision instead of power. Rather than excavating a massive pit, the engineers designed a high-accuracy drilling strategy that would allow them to investigate the target area through a series of carefully positioned boreholes. Every drilling location was selected only after being compared with the latest 3D underground maps. Once a borehole was completed, the next one was positioned just a short distance away, allowing the team to gradually build a clearer picture of what lay beneath the surface while minimizing the risk of damaging any possible structure. To make the process even more careful, remote borehole cameras and advanced underground sensors became a key part of the operation. As soon as each borehole reached its planned depth, a high-resolution camera was lowered underground, giving researchers a chance to inspect the area without disturbing the site through excavation. Rick Lagina also established another important rule. If digging eventually became unavoidable, it would be carried out with extreme caution. The excavation would progress one layer at a time, with every section of soil, rock, wood fragment, and recovered material carefully separated, documented, and sent for laboratory examination. Rick believed that if Oak Island's greatest mystery was ever going to be solved, it wouldn't happen through aggressive digging. It would happen through patience, careful observation, and scientific research. One careless decision could destroy evidence that had remained hidden for centuries. Science became the team's greatest tool. At this point, excitement took a back seat to scientific testing. Rick Lagina understood that Oak Island had witnessed countless bold claims throughout its 230-year history. Many discoveries had generated headlines, but very few had survived detailed scientific examination. This time, the approach would be different. No hidden chamber or treasure vault would be announced unless every piece of evidence could withstand independent scientific verification. For that reason, the team's most valuable samples were distributed among several independent laboratories. One of the first priorities was metal analysis. Researchers carefully examined the faint metallic traces recovered from both the core samples and borehole material. Their goal was to determine whether those traces were simply the result of naturally occurring minerals or whether they might indicate the presence of something created by human activity. At the same time, the recovered wood fragments underwent carbon dating to estimate their age. If those samples dated back to a historically significant period, they could provide an entirely new perspective on the investigation. Scientists also began a detailed examination of the surrounding soil. Samples collected from multiple depths were compared for their mineral composition, chemical characteristics, and moisture distribution. The researchers believed that if people had altered this area in the distant past, the soil surrounding the structure might display characteristics different from the untouched natural layers nearby. Meanwhile, geological specialists combined the latest underground scans, borehole records, and core sample data to construct a complete digital geological model of the target area. Their objective was simple: determine whether the anomaly represented a natural geological formation or something that had been intentionally built. Throughout the investigation, Rick continued repeating the same message. Oak Island's mystery would never be solved through speculation. Only scientific verification could reveal the truth. If the results from the metal analysis, carbon dating, soil studies, and geological modeling all supported the same conclusion, only then would the discovery earn worldwide scientific acceptance. Global attention returned to Oak Island. As news of Rick Lagina's latest investigation began to spread, Oak Island quickly found itself back in the international spotlight. Within hours, reports of the possible discovery had spread across social media, attracting millions of views and sparking intense discussion. Treasure hunting communities, history forums, and mystery enthusiasts began examining every available detail. Some people described it as the most promising breakthrough in more than 2 centuries of searching. Others believed the island's greatest secret might finally be on the verge of being uncovered. Many even returned to historical maps and older ground scans, comparing them with the newly released information in search of overlooked clues. International media soon joined the conversation. Documentary producers, news organizations, and online publications released special coverage focusing on the unusual underground signal, the recently collected core samples, and the team's decision to rely on scientific testing instead of immediate excavation. People around the world wanted to understand what had convinced Rick Lagina and his team to abandon heavy machinery in favor of a slower, evidence-based investigation. Once again, Oak Island became one of the world's most talked about mysteries. Historians and archaeologists also began offering their opinions. Some experts suggested that if the ground scans, laboratory findings, and geological models ultimately confirmed one another, the discovery could become one of the most significant archaeological developments of recent times. Others urged caution. They reminded the public that promising evidence had appeared many times before, only to produce disappointing results after closer investigation. Because of that history, they emphasized that every sample must undergo independent scientific verification before any major conclusions could be accepted. At the same time, the debate between supporters and skeptics became even more intense. Those who believed in the discovery argued that the evidence gathered this time appeared far stronger and more consistent than anything seen previously. Skeptics, however, warned that it was still far too early to describe an underground anomaly as a treasure vault. Despite their different opinions, nearly every expert agreed on one point. Until the laboratory testing, carbon dating, metal analysis, and additional drilling were completed, no final conclusion could responsibly be made. A second underground anomaly changes everything. As confidence grew following the ground scans, laboratory reports, and core sample analysis, Rick Lagina authorized the next phase of drilling. This stage aimed to explore even deeper beneath the island. Engineers carefully positioned several new boreholes at the exact locations identified as the strongest targets during the 3D mapping process. With every new drill, the same question remained in everyone's mind.